And so I personally love going hard. David Goggins, he loves it too.
It's just gotta stay hard, brother!
And so when you tell me that zone 2 cardio, 10 hours a week on the bike at a heart rate of 120 is ideal, it's going to improve my endurance capacity and all this kind of stuff, I'm thinking, that sounds really boring. Science-based says it's ideal. I like racing. I like going hard. And so if science says that I should keep 1 to 3 reps in reserve and do 20 sets of...
Before we start the video, I want to say something. I'm sorry, my speech, I got my tooth ripped out. So I noticed in Greg's video, Greg puts together science about volume and reps in reserve in hypertrophy and how hard he is going in the bike, and those are completely different. He cannot say that, okay, science says 1 to 3 reps in reserve is enough, so, and I go hard, so science is bullshit. That's true, but he cannot say then, okay, I go also hard in a bike because I enjoy going hard in a bike. No, that's completely different thing. In hypertrophy, all you need is to stimulate the muscle, but you need correct stimulus. You don't get hypertrophy doing incorrect stimulus. If you are doing something like, I don't know, 200 reps, okay, you can go hard for 200 reps, but that isn't correct stimulus for muscle growth. That's the same thing when you are doing endurance training. You cannot say... Anyways, I'm gonna explain all in the video, so see you.
Welcome to Study Corner. Today, as you saw from the Greg Doucette's video, amazing video about how science can be very misleading, and that's what I have taught always about, exercise science. It's always a little bit of, there is studies that have less than 100 people, and it's and you see way too many times those kind of studies where you can get any results you want, basically. You can, it's completely crazy. That's why it's very annoying when you see on the internet nowadays everyone is just study without any understanding of the actual physiology. They are like, show me the study. Yeah, I can show you the study that shows to you that this is correct, but I can show you also a study that shows that this is incorrect. So Greg is absolutely right there when he's talking about find what your own body likes the best. But he's not right when it comes to the endurance training. And that's, I think, where he has a little bit of knowledge gap. It's completely correct that when, for example, it's easy to, without any talk about physiology, it's easy explanation. It's easy explanation to show just what are the best in the world doing. When you are looking Mr. Olympia competitions or the best bodybuilders there is basically people who are doing very little sets. Some are doing like a couple sets per body part, per training session, 1 or 2 training sessions per week. If they are intense enough, that's enough. Because when you are training for muscle hypertrophy, you need a stimulus. And you can get that stimulus training 1 set per week or training 100 sets per week. So Greg is right there when he says that you should not just look that, the science is telling you to do exactly 6.56 sets per week for optimal training. That's completely BS. But when you look at the endurance athletes, you are not going to find any endurance athletes who are in their early season. And early season is the part where we are training our basic abilities. You don't find me one single person who is doing ton of intensity. That just doesn't happen. Mostly they're doing 80% of zone 2 is even little. I would say 90 to 95% of the training is in zone 2. So, and the high intensity training, there is mostly sprints. It's not what Greg Doucette talks about going for a race and going all out. No, hell no. They doesn't do that because it's not that effective for growing your endurance. It's different in muscle hypertrophy, where you can do basically anything, but if you get enough stimulus, you will grow. That doesn't happen in endurance training that well. So mostly it's like endurance training, and depending on the sport, it's some sprint training also. There is also some training over your anaerobic level. So there is some training that needs to be in high level, so you can keep little bit of the your what's the correct word in English? Your bicarbonate levels in your blood and your lactate threshold, and when you try to get your lactate up. Sorry about my English. When you keep those levels, you need to keep them little bit, because when the competition season starts, you are not starting from the zero. But if there is two persons, normal person, they have no competitions, or they have competition 2 years from now. Person A is doing what Greg preaches, so 150 minutes of zone 2 cardio per week, and then add couple hard sessions. Person B is doing the 150 minutes of zone 2 cardio per week, but the sessions the person A is doing, the extra sessions, doing high intensity. The person B is doing zone 2, and he's even able to do little bit more, because you cannot. It's super different to go 30 minutes of high intensity versus you can go 60 to 90 minutes of low intensity. But let's say they're both doing 200 minutes of training per week, exactly the same. The person 2 who is doing everything in zone 2 for the first 1.5 years, and then during the last half year, and even during the last 3 months, he is taking high intensity stuff into the account. It's not even a question that the person 2 who is doing mostly zone 2 is going to get a lot better results. And it's basic physiology. And that's why it's a little bit annoying when Greg talks about science. Science is crap, yes, but endurance training doesn't work like muscle growth. You cannot just go super high intensity every day and expect to get huge results. That doesn't happen. And it's mostly because, and now I'm going to talk in simple words because I don't know the words in English, but when you are going above certain threshold with your heart rate, your heart, the volume growth of your heart will start to be not as good anymore. This happens because there is certain points during your heart rate when your heart is growing to its maximum volume, and then it's squeezed back. When your heart rate grows and grows and grows, your heart doesn't have the time to go to its maximum volume, which goes a little bit smaller but faster. And then you don't train the volume of your heart that well anymore. You start to train more of the strength part. And the strength part is that one that it's built above your volume. So it's like you can get huge results on your endurance training 6 to 8 weeks, very hard. But then your results will, stop. Why? Because it's not the kind of training you will do over the long term. It's similar for when you are training for maximum bench press. You don't do between 1 to 4 reps training, or you will do very little of those. Australian strength coach, for example, who is coaching Dor Bjornsson, he's programming anything about below 4 reps or 4 reps only 4 weeks before competition, at least in his strength system online, which is program that many high level athletes uses. And he might have 16 weeks of no anything below 4 reps. Why? Because it's the show strength. It's something that you do to take your basics and grow them. It's same in endurance. It's not the same in muscle mass. So yeah, let's hear about ChatGPT's opinion what I just talked about. Hopefully I have the tooth the back tooth that is annoying will be taken out today. Hopefully. That's why I'm making the video now in the early morning, because I'm like, my jaw might be, blown up in the evening, so I'm not able to do videos then.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and honestly, I agree with most of it. He's right in principle that science can be twisted and that individual response matters. But when he applies hypertrophy logic to endurance training, that's where he completely misfires. Endurance development is a different physiological system. It's not just about effort or total time, it's about what kind of stress you're applying. In zone 2, you train stroke volume, capillarization, mitochondrial density, basically the foundation. But if your heart rate is constantly high, your diastolic filling time drops. That means less blood per beat, and your heart starts adapting in the wrong way. It gets stronger but not bigger, and that caps your long-term aerobic capacity. That's why elite endurance athletes, even the absolute best, spend over 90% of their volume at low intensity. They're not lazy. They're building the platform so they can actually benefit from the hard stuff later. The only reason to include early high-intensity work would be for signaling, like a tiny dose to preserve lactate threshold or bicarbonate buffering. But even that isn't about performance gains. It's just so you don't start from zero when race prep begins. So yeah, Greg's right about bad science. But when it comes to endurance, the real science is actually better than the YouTube advice. And most importantly, the physiology doesn't lie. You can't out-hustle bad adaptation. Let me know if you want a shorter TikTok-sized version.
No, shorter TikTok-sized version. No, I don't need shorter TikTok-sized version, thank you. Is there something I'm missing here? Is there something that might be more true in between my and Greg's point of view? Is there some place to get even better results when you incorporate some, high intensity stuff? And we are not talking about sprint training. We are talking about some hard training in your anaerobic threshold or above your anaerobic threshold.
ChatGPT's voice. Answering your question in the video. That's a great question. And honestly, yeah, there is a bit of truth in both approaches, but your take is closer to what we see in actual elite endurance programming. Greg is right that intensity has a place, especially if someone has limited time or needs fast adaptations, but it's not equivalent to low intensity volume. Physiologically, they build different systems. The real answer? Volume builds the engine. Intensity fine-tunes it. So yeah, most people overuse intensity thinking it's a shortcut. It's not. But completely ignoring it forever isn't ideal either. Once the aerobic base is strong, threshold work adds sharpness. Bottom line, your foundation is correct. Just keep in mind that a small amount of intensity at the right time can unlock even more gains, but it should never replace.
Can you explain what you mean by small amount of intensity at the right time? Because that is something that might be beneficial, but then it's different for saying that let's do 150 minutes of zone 2 and then let's add couple of hard intensity training sessions. It's super different for that. And when you say that when person has limited amount of time, that higher intensity might be beneficial. Yeah, but did you mean that when you are looking for short-term adaptations or when we are looking for person's long-term endurance goals. Because I would say, based on the physiology, if we have both, like if I have a twin and we both have 5-year goal of improving our health, and my twin does high intensity training most of the time and some zone 2 training, we both do only 60 minutes of cardio per week, so we do only 3 times 20 minutes, and I never do in high intensity, I only do the 3 times 20 minutes in zone 2, so little time but in zone 2. I would say that my end point would be much better because I have actually improved on the systems that can be improved over the long term.
Absolutes. ChatGPT responding in the video. Yeah, you're exactly right to push on this, because a small amount of intensity doesn't mean the same as just throw in 2 hard workouts per week, no matter what. What I meant was, if you're training for long-term endurance, zone 2 has to be your foundation. Always. That's the part that actually expands your aerobic system, mitochondrial density, stroke volume, all the things that improve over years. Now, intensity, it's not useless, but it's not magic either. You're right. If you and your twin only train 60 minutes per week and you stay in zone 2 while your twin blasts through intervals, your system is going to scale better over the long term. His might plateau early. Where intensity does help is when, 1, you're peaking for competition, 2, you're trying to maintain some glycolytic sharpness, 3, or you're working with a short window, like 6 to 8 weeks before an event or a VO2 max retest.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not replacing zone 2. It's more like, once the base is solid, carefully using intensity as a sharpening tool. So yes, your model is more sustainable, more physiologically grounded. The only caveat is, a little intensity, strategically placed, might help optimize the system, not replace it. Let me know if you want.
So the video is done, and what we learned is that endurance is different. And the part where small intensity would be beneficial, and that actually means small intensity. That means like throwing 10 minutes of harder cardio, and it doesn't need to be so you are dead, but little harder cardio. If you're doing 3 workouts per week, one of those, throw 10 minutes of little harder training, but you don't need to do any more. And I could go much deeper in the actual physiology and why is this. But when Greg is putting this into the same category as bodybuilding, it's just wrong. In bodybuilding, all you need is to stimulate. Here also you need to stimulate your endurance engine, but you cannot stimulate it in the wrong way. But anyways, if you like the video, click the like button, comment if you have any questions, and subscribe. I stay healing my ripped tooth.